So recently I was thinking about this series. I was thinking a lot about what we do here on Paint Talk, and namely how I talk about this series, how I introduce it, right? That the concept of this series is me learning how to paint over the course of this year, 2 years, however long this ends up going for, right? And I was thinking about just the last 6 months, right? We've been doing this for 6 months now, pretty cool, pretty long time, daily, and I feel like I've improved somewhat at painting in that time. I would by no means say I'm a good painter yet, but on some level, on a technical level, I've definitely gotten more comfortable with the brushes. I've learned about color, form, a little bit of these things, right? These things I had no idea of at the beginning. And I was thinking about like, okay, I think of this series as like I'm learning to paint. I'm figuring out how to paint live on camera with all you, right? At what point does the premise of the series change to I'm learning how to paint on camera to just I'm painting on camera, just like I'm somebody who can paint and I'm painting along with you, right? To clarify, I'm by no means saying that that's right now that I've learned how to paint. I don't think I'm even close to that yet. And I was trying to think through this, and I couldn't think of an answer, you know? I feel like in a lot of ways, if a 10 is the best painter on earth, and a 0 is where I was at when I started, I feel like I've gone maybe from a 0 to a 0.5, right? But at what point do you become, a 3? Is a 3 when you're a painter? Is a 4 when you're a painter? And then I was thinking about it more, and I was thinking about the other places I do art, the other places where I'm far better than I am at painting, right? I was thinking about writing, I was thinking about drawing, and I realized, like, as much as, I would say I'm much farther along in these practices than I am at painting, I still don't feel that I'm at all, I'm at all done learning, right? Like, I don't think that I hit one day where I was like, okay, I've been drawing for 3 years now and I can do a full human form. I'm now an artist. Like, I never had that moment. It was more so just like, eventually it just became something I would say, like, yeah, no, I'm an artist, right? And that's what I was thinking about with painting, right? Like, I don't think I could say this for certain because I have not learned how to paint yet. It'd be naive of me to assume I could say anything like this, but I'm gonna go on a limb here and say if it's anything like the other places I do art, there will never be a day where I go, okay, I'm a painter now. Rather, I feel like I'll always be learning. I will learn forever, and that is how you become a good painter, right? Like, I think you should constantly be improving, should constantly be changing. That's how every other artistic discipline has worked for me, so I can only assume painting would be the same. So, by that metric, when do you become a painter? I have no idea, by the way. I'm not here to answer that question. I'm not here to think about that question at all. I don't think it's worth thinking about. I think that time could better be spent painting and thinking of things to paint. However, this thought process did make me think of a whole other thought process, a piece of advice I'd gotten. I don't remember where I got this piece of advice. It could have been from a person, it could have been from the internet. No clue at all. But I got the piece of advice that, like many artists, have this idea of something they want to make in their head, that they say they will make someday, right? If you're an artist, which I think like 90% of you are, you definitely have one of these things. Everybody I've talked to has one of these things. Like, think of it right now. What is the thing for you that you're like, if I had X amount of money, X amount of time, I would make that thing, right? The answer that I've always heard, and that has served me well over the years, is if you have one of those things, do it. Do it right now. Do it as soon as possible, even if you have to do it, right? Paint and Talk was actually one of these things for me. This series of learning how to paint live on camera, I was like, I'll do that when I have a certain number of subscribers. And then I realized it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how many subscribers, I should just do it, right? I think many things exist like this. Of course, some things are limited by money. If you want to become a roller coaster builder, that's probably it's going to be a minute probably, but you can draw the roller coasters now. You can research how you would go about doing, there's always something you could do is the point of this. And the idea of waiting for some arbitrary day when that can truly happen is never going to get you where you want to be, right? The principle is not so much that you could do anything right now, but that you should just jump, because who knows, right? And I was thinking about this idea, and namely what I want to do, right? Of like, what are my ideas? I try and do a check-in like this every once in a while to make sure I'm not coming up with too many things that I'll do in the future. I do like planning. I think it's cool to plan. I think, to make something now and go, okay, I'll release this in a couple of months is cool, and I do have things like that. However, I think for the most part, I like to try and think of whatever I'm thinking of I'll do in 10 years and go, how could I do that now? And sometimes there are good reasons of like, this is something that does need to be done then. But most of the time, like the time I'm about to tell you about, it's not a good reason at all. And I was thinking about a series of paintings I want to do, things I want to do for art pieces that I could only ever imagine museums and stuff like that. Of like, I'll do that when I'm an artist. If I could ever get into a museum, then I would do that, right? And I realized there were two arbitrary things here. One, this idea that I had in my head, that I was thinking about, that an artist is somebody in a museum. That's not how that works. An artist is somebody who makes art, right? This is something I know. This is something I talk about all the time. But still, in my head, for some reason, I could not remove the association that an artist is somebody in a museum. That's all I could think of. It's like, one day when I'm a real artist who gets in a museum, that is when I will, do this cool series of paintings I want to do. That's when I'll start making serious art. And namely, I thought that's when I'll start going down artistic routes, right? That's what you're seeing right now, by the way, is me deciding to do that. I always thought, like, oh man, like one day I'll go and I'll paint whatever I feel, whatever, mood I'm in, and naturally the paintings will change and develop over time. Because, just like everything else changes and develops over time when you do something constantly. And I was like, I won't do this until I'm a real artist. Then I can manage to do that. Until then, I cannot manage to do that. Right? This is an idea I had in my head over the last 3 weeks I kept thinking back to for some reason. And of course I realized, this is stupid. You should just do that now. Well, no, it won't be in a museum, and it'll never be in a museum in any regard. But it doesn't make it any less real. It doesn't make it any less art, And I realized so many people have these things of like, once, I was talking to a friend. He's a writer, great writer, one of the funniest people ever. One of the funniest people I know, at least. I can't say ever, but I'll say ever. I'll give it to him, right? He's one of the funniest people ever. And he was like, once I am like making stuff and selling it, once I'm selling these scripts, then I'm going to do this, write something. Obviously I'm not going to say what it is, but like, then I'll write this thing. And I was like, no, like this idea that we are artists once our art is in the world is simply not how it works, right? The thing that makes you an artist is not other people knowing you make art, right? You're an artist the second you pick up a brush, the second you write a word, the second you do something, whatever your craft is, then you are an artist. You are an artist people know as an artist once you get into the museum or once you do a thing, then you are an artist that people perceive as an artist. That's when you get to invite your friends and tell them, look, I'm an artist. That's the reward there. Then you're an artist that people know about, right? But you're no less of an artist because you haven't done that yet. And this is where I started thinking about the phrase and probably the title of this episode, fake it till you make it. This idea of okay, you want to be an artist, you want to be a writer, you want to be a director, you should fake it till you make it. You should pretend you're good at it until you are. You should do it in some way until you can really do it. And thinking about it in this vein of like, why am I waiting to do these things? Why do I treat myself as if I'm not real because I haven't hit some arbitrary goal yet? Why am I faking it till I make it when making it doesn't really mean that you've made it, right? Making it is great. Like, a shout out to, I'm sure there are people watching this who have gotten something into a museum, who have had an exhibition somewhere, maybe they've gotten a script sold, and I think that's awesome. I don't think these things are useless at all. However, the idea that only then you are good at something, that you are only then an artist, is simply incorrect. Like, that is categorically incorrect. You're an artist once you're making these things. And you need to be an artist for a long time before you can sell something, before you can be somewhere where people go, oh wow, you're an artist, right? Anybody who has gotten into any of these things, they don't do it on their first try. They're not an artist the second they get in. They're an artist the second they pick up the brush, And only with that mindset can you ever get past just picking up your brush alone in your room. And that's where I was thinking about all these things together, right? I was thinking about the idea of having these things I want to do that I'm holding myself back from doing, namely painting off impulse. I was thinking about this idea of like, when will I be a real painter? I was thinking about all these things, and I realized like, I'm playing by the rules, fake it till you make it, when there's nowhere to make. I've already made it. You make it the second that you decide once you make it. You are an artist once you feel comfortable giving yourself the title. And in my book, you're an artist the second that you pick up a pen, the second that you do anything, right? Because that's, the only way we can really think of it, right? There's no other, your goalpost is if you make it into a gallery. What if your Van Gogh never made it into a gallery? I don't think in his life. I'm pretty sure, like I'm 99% sure, don't quote me on that. But I don't think he ever made it into an official gallery in his life. I don't think Van Gogh had a showing. Was he not a painter until he died and they put him in a gallery? Like, was he up in heaven like, oh, finally made it? No, he made it the second he went into the field and started painting every day. The second he chopped off that ear, I think. Why did he do that again? I don't know why he did that. I remember when I was in school, they were like, Van Gogh's this guy who chopped off his ear, and all they would tell me about the ear. And then they made me do something with oil pastels, and I was like, I don't get it. I don't get why he did this ear thing. I don't know why I need to know that. You know what I mean? Like, when they tell you about Picasso, they don't tell you about like all that stuff, you know? Like, you don't learn about that in school. You just learn what a good painter he is. They weren't like he was a womanizer and like the worst person ever. Like, why did we learn about Van Gogh's ear? I don't know. That was a side tangent to end that. But yeah, that's what I've been thinking about, guys. Stop faking it till you make it. You know, you've already made it. You're not faking it. You just are. You are an artist. You're doing whatever you want to do, and just do it as if you are there, because you are. That's all. This is the painting. Nothing to really say. I feel like it's kind of doing what I did yesterday and the day before that. I'm tired of these colors. I had to use them up on the palette, of course. You guys know how this works, but you know, it's cool. I'm still liking what we're doing here. And I do like the idea of not trying to capture forms, but rather just allowing it to be fluid. Like yesterday, it wasn't really a form yesterday, but it just feels like a work that's in a certain vein, right? Because that's just kind of the mood I'm in right now, and I think it's way more natural to do it that way. So this is what I'm doing. I think it's cool. I think kind of the same thing as yesterday. I want to switch up these colors. I want to do something a little different. So go check this out over on the Instagram. And until next time, guys, gals, and pals, my name is Max Dice. This is Paint Talk episode 238. I'm here every morning, painting and talking with you all.